All right.
What's going on?
Nothing much. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, how you been since Milwaukee?
I've been good.
Yeah. Busy?
Having a baby? I forgot if
yeah.
I knew that in Milwaukee or not.
No,
Maybe.
you didn't.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's on my mind.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Everything else has been calm.
Oh yeah. Well, how was that finding out that you were going to be a dad?
Good. Exciting. Happy. We were hoping. So, yay, it happened.
Yay.
And everything seems healthy so far.
Yeah. Well, I know when I was telling people or when I was bringing it up, I was like, hey, did you hear Hemant was spawning?
Yes. That's awesome. It's so funny to hear atheists try to give me name suggestions.
Oh, yeah?
It's like everything is just, why don't you call it Sagan?
Sagan?
Or just put it in his middle name. And I'm like,
it's really weird because Johnny that just left,
yes. I've seen some friends do something similar to that stuff, and that's cute. Like, yeah, my wife won't go for it.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, so, how has the conference been for you so far?
Good. It's neat. I like that it's not what you see at an atheist conference, It's not talking about God. It's talking about what you do after you don't believe in God. Like, beyond that phase, which, again, this is one of the things that I always hear criticism of the Sunday Assembly or atheist churches in general, where it's like, it's too much like church. Yeah, but it appeals to a lot of people who are so turned off by atheism in every other way. So good, if this is working for some people, more power to them. Like, whatever. So it's nice to kind of hear these voices. Hearing Bart Campolo, who's a former evangelical Christian, a few other people who, the Too Many Cooks guy, people you don't see in typical atheist things. It's a cool to listen to them.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you yourself gave a talk here, which I was actually able to stream.
Oh, sweet.
On my channel. Sweet. So I'm also going to cut that out and put it up on its. At least in lieu of them getting the more high definition version up. I can't wait for that because I'm going to try to use my stream of it to promote their awesome. Better video.
Yeah.
But you were talking about positive aspects of church that we can try to move over into a more secular community. I'm wondering, can you give us a brief overview?
So some of the stuff churches do, they do some things really, really well, and I'm not being sarcastic, they really do them well. They know how to connect with people. They know how to talk about tough situations in your life. So we all experience death of a loved one. That happens to everybody. Atheists suck at talking about that. Churches, that's where they make their money, is talking about that stuff. So they know how to give you the comforting words you need to hear about how someone's in a better place, off in heaven, looking down at you. Now, we don't believe in that stuff, and I'm not saying we should offer false hope, but we can also talk to people about, look, you were alive. That person was alive. Even if you went through the horrible tragedy of losing a child, your child was alive, and they impacted you, and they changed you. So, stuff happens. It happens to everybody. But think of how wonderful it was that they had that gift that you gave them of life, and think about how they changed you. And even when a loved one goes, they could live beyond physical life because, you could donate their organs, donate their bodies to science, that they can be remembered in your minds. There are ways to talk about serious things like that without bringing God or religion into it. But we need to figure that out because that is what people are looking for. Because, once you don't believe in God, that's nice. But at some point, you move out of that phase. It's just, all right, I don't believe in God. Now what? What do I do with my life? How does that change how I think? At some point, you start thinking about those questions. We don't have those answers. So I appreciate that a place like Sunday Assembly is trying to offer an answer to that or a way to do it. Other groups are doing it too. but Christians know how to do that really well. So that's one example of just churches do that really well. If you are grieving, they will be there to help you. They'll make you food if you lost a loved one. They will help you through the grieving stage. I mean, when's an atheist coming to your door to help you out? Unless you know them really, really well already. It's just not part of our culture, and it should be.
What do you think about the whole, guilting into, like, because they have to believe in Jesus in order for you to help.
Right.
I mean, how would you respond to that?
I don't want to guilt anyone into doing any of this stuff, obviously. But I think if you tell them, like, look, you are part of this community here. It's a local community or whatever. None of us believe in God. We all want to help each other, and we want to make our community a better place. If you can give enough of a compelling reason for people to be part of the community like that, they just want to be there. They want to be a part of that. So many people are looking for something like that. And that's why we have so many meetup groups and local atheist groups and whatever spawning everywhere, because it fills a niche that people want to fill and they want to be a part of. So you don't have to guilt anyone. If you're giving them a good enough service and look at what we're offering you by being part of this community, they just want to help out however they can. So I don't think you need to guilt them. If you can say, look, this is a good idea, so why don't you want to be a part of this? They'll want to be a part of this.
I just, whenever I'm in these discussions, I try to think about. And so I could, talking about how church is really good at coming back with, well, they'll guilt you into doing it.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in Jesus, they put prerequisites.
Don't get me wrong. I know churches guilt people, but I'm telling you, the people who are volunteering with the churches, helping out the church, they're not doing it because they fear hell. They're doing it because they feel connected to those communities. And most Christians I talk to they love their communities. They're wrong about some fundamental beliefs, but they want to help people. They want to do nice things for other people, and the church gives them the vessel to do that. And one of the reasons that if they stop believing in God, they may still remain in the church because it gives them those things. We don't necessarily have that option. And for so many people who lose their faith, how many times have we heard of people who are like, yeah, I don't believe in God, but I'm going to send my kid to Sunday school because that's where they learn ethics. And I'm going to get married in a church because I didn't know there were any other options. Yeah, they don't know of any other way. So to give them a kind of a stepping stone that says, this is kind of like church, but without the God stuff. So it may just be what you're looking for. But again, what we have right now are some rudimentary building blocks of that. There's so much we need to add on. Churches do it all the time, and they know how to do it. We don't. Right. And so it's a matter of, let's see what we can figure out. How do you create those communities that are getting together regularly, that everyone knows each other, they help each other out? It's a nice idea, but it's so hard to pull off.
I think that fine line in the church congregation, those that are genuinely there to help out, and only help those that believe in God. I think that's a fine line that is vastly dismissed by a lot of the atheist community.
Yeah,
they overstep that and they kind of generalize all religious.
Yeah, we think they're all just dupes. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
That they believe in this bullshit, and that's why they go there. And it's like, no, not a lot of them don't believe in it. Even some of the ones that do are like, that's not why I'm doing all this stuff. I'm not going on a mission trip because I want to proselytize. I'm going on this mission trip because it's the best way I have available to me to go overseas and help people who need help. What if you gave them an option of a secular mission trip where you're going overseas because you only have this life, so we have to be the ones to make it better? We're not there to even preach humanism or something. Just say, look, there are these people overseas who need help. We have to be the ones to help them. It's not like God's going to do it.
Yeah.
If we had the infrastructure to send them overseas or something, how many of these people would be willing to do it? I think there are a lot of atheists who are like, I've graduated from college, I don't want to work yet. I would gladly take a year off to go do some sort of service work like that. But usually the only people doing that are religious groups and a few big nonprofits or something.
Right. And, actually this ties into an interview that I had recently with
Yeah, the name is familiar.
Yeah, she set up that GoFundMe for Leah out in.
Right.
Yeah, but she was pretty heavily into helping out, and she actually went out to California to help.
Yeah.
And they were very much the proselytizing type of Christian that well, okay, look, we'll preach to you and give you Jesus, and
right.
and we'll also give you food,
if you want food,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Connie, she was in it to help people,
right.
And so she was like, okay, guys, look, I know how we all feel the same way about this whole thing.
Yeah.
So just come back, you'll get some hot food and a dry place to sleep, and then So I mean, there are people like that in those.
But it's sad that we have to go to kind of a religious food shelter to do that sort of work, a food kitchen to do that sort of work. Like, and I've heard this question, like, well, there aren't any atheist food kitchens. Yeah, that they're right, because we don't have the money that they necessarily have to get those things off the ground. The problem is I don't see any kind of impetus to get it going. I've seen one group that has kind of expanded a lot, the Atheists Helping the Homeless group. They're based out of Austin, Texas, and now they're in a few other cities. But they said, look, we want to raise money. It's all going back to purchase equipment, toiletries for homeless people, and we're going to hand them out at various locations. That's a cool thing. Like, that's a nice step. It has nowhere near the money of like a food kitchen to sustain it not 24 hours a day, but to keep it going every single day. Mm-hmm. We don't have that in place. We don't have the money for that in place. But isn't that something we should be aiming for? And again, I want to see more of that.
And I think that Sunday Assembly is really a good way to go, because people love the feeling of community, and I've got a fairly sizable community online, and we try to make that place kind of like an in spirit, I guess. We don't actually call it that, but we try to provide community to. What I've found is that there's a very not fine line. There's a very solid line of the different types of atheists, because there's atheists that do want community and do want help, and then there's not really any that don't care. It's either you want it and you see the value in it, or you just simply don't and you're totally against it.
And most of the people I've run into, that's why I run into them, are people who are really passionate about this issue. So some of them they will be vocal advocates for you not believing in God, which is awesome, and that's important. But so many people I also know they've done that. Like, okay, like for me personally, I don't need to read another book convincing me God doesn't exist. I don't need another group I don't need to hear another lecture about why God doesn't exist, because I've heard them, and I know you've convinced me. I'm good now. But I have a kid to raise now, and those are questions. How do I raise the kid without any religious anything? Without like teaching about God or saying a prayer, because that's how I was raised. How do you do that? How do you how do you live your life when you're not religious? Those are important questions that we need to figure out how we can answer.
Yeah, and I know that he's going to love me for throwing his name out here, but Dan Arl, he's pretty much known in the secular community for being, I think he said he's got the book Parenting About God.
Yeah.
So there's a number of those resources,
and those are starting to come out now, which is nice. Absolutely.
Yeah, and kind of I guess kind of shifting gears. The one big topic that's been going around for the past weeks, right? So now, what I know
the baby knows.
Yes, that's why the baby's crying. Now, I mean, what do you think about the whole Duggars? I know that you've written a few blogs on it.
It's sad. I mean, what it boils down to is there's abuse going on in the family, and they were kind of sheltered from doing anything because the church culture told them this is how you handle these situations privately, and like, don't worry about the victims. Like, they didn't do anything for those girls. They talked to the boy, and they didn't really even punish him. They just kind of like shipped him off to go get, I don't know, rehabilitated by someone who wasn't trained in counseling, that sort of stuff. So nothing really happened to him. I'm glad this is an issue now, because it exposes kind of that whole way of thinking and what's wrong with it. Because I know in the atheist community, you say the Duggars, And it's still, we're talking about a patriarchal culture. We're talking about the quiverful type of family, and that's messed up in a lot of ways. But for most people watching the show, it's a nice family, and there's a lot of kids. And it's like, no, it's not. That's a dangerous type of culture that they live in. And I think they're starting to see that now, which is, at least that came out of this.
Yeah, and to reference Connie Burrow again, she came from a similar type of where, they were teaching the girls how to be proper biblical women.
Yeah.
And part of that was accepting their fate as God has intended. Now, whether that means having 25 kids or dying in childbirth,
right.
Like if a doctor blatantly comes up to you and says, hey, this baby's going to kill you, they're going to be like, well, I guess God just needs another angel in his choir.
Right. And this is Bart Campolo, who is a former pastor, was talking about this too, where he's like, that's one of the things that led him away from religion, trying to say that to people, like, why did you lose someone you love? Well, God has a plan for you. Even he wasn't buying that. He's like, what sort of messed up God is that?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons you step away, because, you hear that stuff all the time, and that's not helping at all.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of transitioning back to the Sunday Assembly aspect to kind of round off the interview here. Do you have like a Sunday Assembly in your area?
Yeah, there is one in Chicago. It's far away from me, so I don't actually go. I was there for the very first one that they had. I like the fact that it's there. Even if it's not something I attend, I like that it's an option for people who are looking for that sort of thing. And that's kind of the what you want. You want a group there that can help people who are leaving church and want something similar to it, who want that sort of community. And I hope it grows bigger. I know they've gone through some changes with who's running it and stuff like that. But yeah, there is a group like that, so more power to them. I hope it works.
I would assume that you would hope that more and more of these Sunday assemblies pop up.
We need more groups, period. I don't care what label they use. I don't care if they're Sunday Assembly or something else. We want more of these groups, because the more that are out there, the more people they can reach that not everyone can reach. And they're going to have different tactics and different ways of doing things, and it'll appeal to some people. We know this too, because the stuff we do online, there are people who love us and people who they not necessarily hate us, but they're just like, you don't do anything for me. But they'll find someone else who does. And that's why I don't usually criticize people if I just disagree with the way they're doing things, unless I think they're doing something totally wrong. But fine, good, more voices, because we need that. We also need good leaders who can draw in more people. But hey, for now, if there's more voices reaching more people separately, fine, good.
And actually, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Have you seen Megan Fox's latest little creation museum?
I posted
videos?
It just now.
Oh, really?
I actually communicated with her about it. She told me a while ago she was going to go to the Creation Museum, and I'm like, this should be good, because she went to the Field Museum and hated it. So what's she going to say about the Creation Museum? And she emailed me a couple days ago and said, hey, I went there and the video's starting to come up now. And what I really wanted to know is, I'm like, I figure she liked it, but I'm like, what did you learn from that experience? Is there anything there she learned? And the thing she said that is exactly what you'd expect her to say, she said, I appreciate that they're very upfront and honest about the fact that they're trying to convert you to Christianity. I just wish the Field Museum would admit they want to convert you to atheism and Darwinism. Like, that's not what they're doing. But okay.
How are they... how are they upfront about being
the Creation Museum?
Yeah. I know that everything is pretty much based on the Bible and Jesus and whatnot, but
because they don't just say the fossil is 4,000 years old because the Bible says so. There are sections in there that say if you don't adopt the Bible, if you don't worship the Christian God, here's what hell looks like. And they have exhibits in there that show a girl who's like calling to have an abortion. And a kid who's basically, I can't remember this one exactly. I think a kid's like masturbating or something. They don't show that, but he's in trouble then.
Is he like in the corner?
Something like that. But it's the thing, they're like, if you fall into sin, here's what's going to happen to you. And you're like, what part of the museum what exactly fossils are in this exhibit? But so they are preaching Christianity along with here's how the science works through Genesis, which is bullshit. But and here's the thing. They call themselves a museum. They have the money to make these exhibits look good. She fell for it because she thinks it's a museum. And she's like, well, they don't know any better than the Field Museum doesn't know any better than the creationists do. It's like, no, they totally do know more.
Well, what I liked about it, because I watched all of the episodes that she's put up, and even with Ken Ham's twin brother.
Steve.
And it just seemed like she stopped whenever he said, "Oh, because of the Bible." But yet, it's like because science tells us, or because radioactive or radiometric dating tells us. It's like she's like, but why? It's like when the Bible's brought up or God's brought up, she just immediately stops. Like, oh, okay, God, I got it.
Got it. Because it does conform to that worldview. I wish she was more skeptical about what she was hearing there as she was in the Field Museum, but it hasn't happened yet in the videos I've seen. Don't expect it to happen.
No, I don't.
But if you've ever been there, I would say this to your viewers too. If you haven't been to the Creation Museum and you get a chance to, you should go. You pay them money and you give them your money for your ticket, but go, because you need to know how they're doing this. You need to know what tools they're using to manipulate people, and what arguments they're actually making. And you should go there as kind of a game, like how many mistakes can you spot in this museum and make a running list. But I've been there twice now. I know, it is an educational experience for atheists, because you realize, holy crap, there are probably more people who believe in this stuff than evolution. And what is it that's so compelling about this story that they're throwing all the evidence out the window and they're buying into this stuff? It looks great. It makes you feel like you're living a good, wholesome life. I mean, they're selling a good story that is a wholesome story. It's just all bullshit. But it's a good, the exhibit, they have so much money. And you're just like, God, I wish you were spending this money for good reasons. But it's a good place. It's a place worth visiting because of it's right out there in the open. There's nothing hidden there. You get to see everything they have, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I like how unapologetic they are about, Jesus said this, or, because of Jesus Christ, this, that, and the other. And
you'll never see another museum mention Jesus as much as that one does in a science exhibit.
Which, actually, I have a natural science museum that's in my town, and, it looks totally fine until you get to the parts where they're trying to connect Bible verses to, animals and wolves and stuff. But anyways, I really appreciate you joining me.
Fun.
Yeah, and what conferences are you going to the rest of the year?
Now nothing for months now. Now it's just getting ready for Child.
Oh yeah.
That's it for the next several months, and then I will go nowhere.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to be home and getting drooled on. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the plan.
Yeah. Well, I know when my son was first born, I actually was able to take off about a month from work, and I was able to stay home with him. And
that's good.
Yeah, that's always been
I'm trying
my
to figure
favorite
out
time.
how I'm going to do that, because my work right now is the website, and I do it I don't sleep. That's what I do all day. And I don't think you can do that when there's a child around, because you got to give it so much attention. Well, so I'll figure that out when the time comes.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, that while they're young, newborn and whatnot, it's really easy because they're going to sleep a lot and they're going to sleep on you a lot.
Yeah.
And so if you can learn to type with one hand really well,
got it.
You can still get some work done, because I know I was working on websites while my son was passed out in my arms.
Nice.
I'll
figure out how to do vocal dictation or something like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have parents around who will be there in the area, so it's all right, they'll come over and do that while I can work or something. We'll see. It's all good.
Well, I guess I'm going to head downstairs with you. And,
sounds good.
I guess I hope you had fun this weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah.